I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Man Listen Show. You can also subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere you can find a podcast. Make sure you leave a comment, give us a thumb up, hit that bell icon so you can subscribe and get notified when we put out new shows, and make sure you tell everybody about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. I'm your host, Marv B. Let's bring the crew in. All right, we down one soldier. Lav's got some other duties he's got to attend to, but it's all good. So y'all, did y'all see the video of this? I'll say dude. You know, I want to say another word, but this coach, his name is Mark Taylor. He's out of Macon, Georgia. So apparently he's a track and field coach. There's several pictures of him with athletes, you know, him working on their speed or what have you. A lot of people have talked about him and have, you know, discussed how he's made a lot of money off working with these young black athletes. Well, video came out. I don't know if he posted on Facebook Live or somehow it came out on social media. I think it was Facebook Live. He showed himself in Atlanta. Now he's from Macon, but he was in Atlanta. Like I've always told people, there's Georgia and then there's Atlanta. Atlanta, even though Atlanta is in Georgia, Atlanta is much different than the rest of Georgia. So this dude, and he's a white gentleman, he was in Atlanta and he was complaining about how there was no white folks in Atlanta. He saw there was this young black woman. He was calling her the N-word. He was talking about how he would hang her from a tree. And then in another video, he was like, I guess in a hotel room, and he acted like he was ordering prostitutes, talking about give me a white one and a red bone one. He was, you know, brandishing a firearm. He was talking about how, you know, he would deal with the red bone, his words, but his friend wouldn't. He probably would kill her if she came through and all this stuff. And then he called Atlanta N-word town. So a lot of people, you know, obviously were upset about this. You know, I mean, why wouldn't you be? But I guess it really ticked a lot of people off, given his history with working with young black people. So I was pretty irate when I saw this. I mean, I had some thoughts in my mind that I may or may not, you know, put out on the show tonight. But see, Erika, what did y'all think when y'all first saw this?
Man, you know, that's my second home. And even still, that didn't surprise me at all. Like all of it, because that's one of the things that I love the most about Atlanta is that you see so many of us doing well and out living well and, you know, just being great. And then but with that, you have that stark difference between what Atlanta represents and how it merges with the rest of Georgia. Well, the first time I moved to Atlanta, like in 2003, man, I was there less than a week before I got called the N-word at a stoplight for no reason. Like that's what they do. Not we cut them off in traffic. We're just parked here. They're parked here. We're just waiting on the light to turn green. I was just like, oh, I forgot. We're in the South. So at the end of the day, Atlanta may be Black Mecca, but it's still in the South. And the South is predominantly Confederate and a lot racist. So it didn't surprise me. It pissed me off that he was bold enough to say it and put it on the internet. But I don't know. I guess even old people, we can't say it's just the children telling on themselves either. The old people want to get in on it too. So I don't know. Hopefully he gets fired and all that other stuff. But you really got to watch who you have around your kids anyway. This is just another reminder.
Well, before C gives her opinion, shout out to T.I. Remember when T.I. was talking about Atlanta as Wakanda and it must be protected, even though this dude ain't from Atlanta, but I guarantee that there's a whole bunch of other people there that look like him that feel that way. So go ahead, see.
I like Erika said, I mean, I was pissed. I was like highly irritated that he said it. And I mean, and I shouldn't have been, but honestly, I was a little bit surprised that I'm not surprised that racism exists because we know that it does. I was surprised that somebody that works with so many black people would like, just like initiate stuff. And I see you shaking your head. You're like, I'm not surprised at all. It wasn't like the comments. I mean, it was crazy, but like the girl at the stoplight, I should hang you from a tree. It's like he just kept going overboard. And then he recorded himself. And you said he posted on Facebook. I didn't know how the video got out. I was actually going to ask y'all that today, like how the
Sure,
video came out.
I think it was Facebook Live. I think so, or he may have recorded
He
it.
couldn't have been that dumb.
Yeah.
If he's a lot dumber than I thought. He couldn't have been that dumb to where he was saying all that on Facebook Live.
Well, what I see is it says live video. So I don't know if it was on Facebook or some other feed, but somehow, some way people got a hold of it. We'll just
and if somebody exposed him, shout out to that person for exposing him. But I want to know like why he felt so comfortable recording that, and then he kept like referencing somebody else that was in the car with him or in the hotel with him. Like who's that person? Because he
like
said
his crew
was going to throw somebody off the roof if they came up there, and so I mean. And then I did see that whoever his connections were, as far as whoever's facilities he was using, he's done with that. But I'm waiting to hear from these universities because he does have a lot of close ties, just from what I was reading with Georgia, Bama, and I can't really remember else, a few other colleges. So I'm waiting to hear from them. I mean, if he steps foot back in any of those colleges and any of those coaches try in any way to okay it, I mean, I hope everybody on that team hits that portal hard.
Well,
but I don't know. Hopefully we don't get any of those families or kids or anybody come out and say, oh, he's a good person. He's this and he's that. Like I'm just waiting on that to happen. Just waiting. I know it's gonna be at least one.
Listen, you knew where I was going with it. And I was talking to some of my homeboys about this, and that's the first thing they said. It says it's gonna be some Negro that gets on and talks about how good he is to them or whatever, right? So there's probably be two things that we'll see. Number one, there'll be some family, and it probably won't be the kid, it'll be a mom or a dad or somebody like that they throw a bag at, so that they're going there and say, well, he's not really a bad person. He was just having a hard time. And then, but probably before that, what they're gonna say is, oh, he had a mental breakdown. He had a nervous breakdown. That's what they always say when somebody when they go full blown racist, they go full blown plantation. They say, "Oh, I was having a mental breakdown." And it's funny to me that whenever you see somebody who like has Tourette's or who has something that goes down, the first thing they go to is to talk about black folks. You know what I mean? So what is that? So is that white supremacy a mental disorder? We know it is a mental disorder, right? Because they ain't supreme over anything. But yeah, you're right. See, it'll probably be some Negroes that go to bat for him, and I hope if whoever it is, if it does happen, I hope the whole town ostracizes him for sure.
I do too. I
hope the whole town says no, you are not welcome at all. So
no more cookouts.
Right. Not it is exactly. But you said that, I think you said something to the effect that, maybe you were surprised because he deals with so many, black children. I think you said something to that effect. Mm-hmm. And I shook my head because I'm never surprised. And, people always, frame me as, oh, Marv, you're militant, Marv, you're this, that, and the other. But from my background, where I grew up, growing up in the city and then moving to a rural part of the town where C and I grew up, I saw how even a lot, I'm not saying all, but a lot of even white people who you feel are good natured, they're, oh man, that's a cool person or whatever. There's still that piece in them. And at the right time, the right amount of pressure, when they're relaxed or whatever, it'll come out. And I'm never surprised. Do I feel that there are some white people that, have good intentions and have a good heart when it comes to Black people and our plight? Absolutely. But I will say I am never surprised when one of them comes out and acts like this, because I've seen it too often. I've seen it too often. And what I liked about it, some previous shows, we had Councilman Shanita Wilkerson Bryant. She's a representative down in Peach County in Georgia, and we always talk about how, like, rural Georgia and some of the struggles that they have versus Atlanta, the city, and how it differs, right? So she was one of the first people I see to call him out, because obviously, Macon being, further south and being close to proximity, she was probably more aware of that. The thing that I liked, what I saw that people were doing, was they're like, okay, yeah, obviously we're not going to patronize this dude anymore. He's done. But what we need to do is, who can train our boys? Who can train our young girls? We need to funnel that business to them. So I like that they're being proactive, and I really hope that they really financially choke this dude all the way out. I hope there's no sympathy. Hope there's no anybody, going on to, So this, because you remember back in OKC, and it was those white frat boys, and they was on the bus and they was singing some old song, and it was the N-word, and you knew that is tradition for them, right? Because I'm in a fraternity, I'm in an organization, and there's chants and songs that we have that has been passed down. So that's what they was about, right? And the first thing they got in was like, oh, we're sorry. And the first thing you saw people standing behind them was a bunch of Black ministers in OKC. And it pissed me off so bad, because I was like, you let these rich white kids throw y'all some checks, and then under the auspices of, we've got to forgive them. Everybody's a Christian. We're going to forgive them. I'm going to let God sort that out. I don't forgive. I'm going to let God sort that one out a little dirty. And I have to take that up with my Savior when it's time. But no, I'm not forgiving nothing. And I hope this dude don't get none of that.
He might as well go ahead and retire.
Yeah. I hope he does. I hope it's a forced retirement too.
I hope he's retired.
And I hope he don't got enough money in his 401k to cover it. He ends up on food stamps.
Yeah, well, they said he was fired as a teacher, and I guess either a high school or middle school coach or something like that. And for some reason or another, it didn't say, that white privilege, it kind of hid his background, but it did say that he was a convicted felon, but it didn't say for what. So there was actually a white guy who had made a couple TikToks and was posting stuff saying that he had a restraining order against his ex-fiance and that he was a convicted felon. And I guess he showed a gun in the video. And so they're like trying to get charges pressed against him because they knew like his, history or whatever. But in the video, it didn't say. And I'm not saying that particular guy to put the video out, let me say that it was, suppressing information, because he clearly was on his head. But I mean, just in general, it doesn't seem like people can figure out why, what he was convicted of. So
listen, before we move on, the only thing that, and I'm probably alone in this, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. But when he was at the hotel talking about he wanted the red bone and the white girl, and he showed the pistol, I was like, just go ahead and unalive yourself right there. You know what I mean? Do us all a favor. Do us all a favor. Since you want to hang Black women from trees and you want to call Atlanta N-word town and all that, just go ahead and take that pistol and unalive yourself. Do us all a favor. But I can't say stuff like that on the podcast, so I won't. But I would if I could. Yo, don't worry. We're going to get back to the good stuff. But before we do that, make sure you go to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, @ManListenShow. If you want to donate to the show, go to our Cash App, $ManListenShow. Now back to the good stuff. So anyway, speaking of Atlanta, it's been all over social media. Freaknik. So Hulu was coming out with a documentary about Freaknik. And out of all of us, all four of us on the show, I think I'm probably the only one who was old enough to have been able to probably go to Freaknik, right? Because I'm the oldest on the show, and even then, when Freaknik was really starting to tail off, when the city of Atlanta was starting to shut it down, it was like 95, 96. I was a freshman in college, and then it was still going on 97, 98, but 97, I was pledging the fraternity, and I I lived in the Midwest, so we just didn't have paper just to really just take a car ride down to Atlanta to go kick it. But we definitely heard about Freaknik in the Midwest, which always baffles me how we were hearing about all this stuff, because now we get stuff like instantaneously, right? You know, it was Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you get news immediately. And we were hearing about how live Freaknik was in the Midwest. I even remember maybe seeing like some videos or
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There was like VHS tapes though.
yeah, videos and photographs of stuff that was going on.
But
And
how?
yeah, but
And
it
then
but
they
I
talked
mean
about it in videos too, and on like like Rhapsody in the basement.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
so
Mhm.
they talked about it a lot on TV.
yeah. So you know, it did get around, but it's still, you know, it's kind of amazing to me. Like, because I was thinking, like, man, how do we used to find places? Like, you know, like
Right.
if I came into your town and I was like, yo, I'm in your city, like, you know, I'd have to go to the payphone,
Yeah.
call you, and say, hey, where, how
How
can
do
I,
I get there?
or ask somebody like, yo, where the black people live at, and go to that side of town. I mean, for real, that's how.
You
That's
know, what we used to do is we used to use the radio. So like when we first started going to Vegas, maybe a decade or 15 years, no, my son was a baby. Okay, 19 years ago. What we did was we first went to Vegas and we just tuned the radio until it was some black music and then listened to the DJ, and the DJ was like, we at Pure tonight. Next thing you know, we end up at Pure and it was lit. So we was like, oh, see.
you got to be careful with some of the radio show parties, because they be talking about this lit. You go there, there'd be like 3 people in there.
3 people, me and
Yeah,
Judy
but I
joined.
mean, this is
You, the
Vegas.
bartender,
Yeah.
and the DJ.
Yeah.
Then, you know, I feel, you know, Vegas, you end up in the proximity of other black people. You're gonna find your way to where the rest of them at eventually.
Yeah. But
But you
so
always
when
be
you
trying to play me on age though. I went to Freaknik in '96. Thank you very much.
and you know what's so sad about that? Because I said I'm the only one who was old enough to probably know.
To probably go.
You way younger than me, and you had absolutely no business.
Not way. She's younger, not way.
No, Enrica's
Man,
way younger than me. How
Well, I
many
don't
years
I guess
younger than me are
what
you,
would you
Enrica?
consider way.
I'm 41.
Don't be acting like she was out of Freaknik when she was
She's
like 12 though.
See, she's 5 years younger than me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But she was like way, like
Yeah, that's not way.
See, in 95, 96, I was 18.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's
No way.
a 13, 14-year-old
No,
had
in
no
96.
business.
Yeah, he would have been, in 96, yeah. Because
No
I know
business.
I had
yeah, because I'd
I
have been
had
17, yeah.
the fresh
I
red
know y'all got this
cardigan.
sister girl thing where y'all trying to stick together. But you know what I'm saying? Like, no. Especially
Don't
since,
be hating.
and especially since this. The main thing that came up when people talked about this documentary coming out, folks was like, oh no, I don't want how I was acting at Freaknik to show up in this documentary. And the first thing that came to people's mind was how some of the women were conducting themselves at Freaknik. Because that's really what we used to see when, you know, we would see the videos and all that stuff. You would see, you know, the most thing you saw was like a bunch of guys, and then you would see a girl on top of a car, on top of a U-Haul, dancing, shaking her way in, or whatever. That's what you saw. That's what we saw.
Or stripping.
Or stripping. That's what we saw about Freaknik, right? So automatically, people started thinking like, you know, because that was what, over 20-something years ago? Because Freaknik started like in 89, 88 or whatever. So you definitely got some mamas and grandmamas, right? that may turn up on this video. That may turn up on this documentary. So people are automatically thinking about like, man, all the church mamas is gonna be in trouble. Don't do it to them. But the Freaknik was probably the most popular large black gathering from that time period. But there was others. There was Kappa Beach that was down in Galveston. We had
Black Beach.
We had Nick Frasty in the Midwest. They had Black Daytona Beach. They had the Greek Picnic in Philly. I mean, there was all kind of things. But I think with Atlanta being like at the time being the burgeoning Black Mecca, and all the different historically Black colleges and universities at the AUC, all those students and everybody coming together, it just was the one that really was the most popular. But an ugly side of Freaknik has to be talked about as well. And there was a video that was put out, and it showed how, you know, the sexual harassment, the sexual violence towards sisters at these type of events was a thing as well. So while there was a lot of shame being, you know, directed towards the women, and I think most of it was good natured, right? Most of it was good natured. The ugly side, people are wondering how this is going to be talked about as well. But this is going to come out in about a year from now. We're talking about it. We're giving it a whole lot of press and publicity right now, including ourselves. We're talking about it on the show. But I don't know, y'all. What y'all think?
I want to know where they got these dusty ass VHS tapes that they about to put out on people. Like, bro, let that period just be what it was. Like, it was like an experience, and like any other experience, it's gonna be good and bad. When you get a whole bunch of people together in a place, it's gonna be crime and it's gonna be some ratchetness. It's gonna be some most people in the middle of that bell curve, just there having a good time, minding their business. And I don't know why somebody decided to wake up one day and be like, you know what? You know who I could expose? I'm gonna go around the country and sift through grandma's basement footage of the oldest VHS tapes in the world and come up with this Freaknik stuff. I've never seen any. I'm lying. I've seen some video footage of Freaknik, but none of it compares to the actual like intensity of being there in Atlanta. And it reminds me kind of like Kappa Beach, because it's like just being stuck on the highway with it's that many people that you're just not moving for hours. So you just on top of the car, hanging out the car, drinking, running from car to car, meeting people and stuff like that. Like that whole buzz and energy of Black people just being outside, having fun. I think that for the most part, this documentary could be that good natured type of, it's like even like how things start out good and then, the more the drinks kick in and the more the whatever else kick in, it might have, went left a little bit. But I think it could be cool without exposing a bunch of people. But will it? No, because sex sells. So it'll probably be very, very unfortunate for some people. But I mean, that's today now. People like to push the limits just for likes and hearts and things like that. They don't care who they hurt.
Yeah, so I never went, so I don't have to worry about being on any of those videos or anything like that. But I I mean the people that are on it at this point, you just gotta own it. I'm sure there's a lot of things people have done, and I'm sure there's some things I've said in my 20s and that I'm so glad we didn't have like camera phones back then. Nothing to the Freaknik nature. Like there's nothing like that of me on video, but there's stuff that I'm not proud of that I wouldn't want to be shown. So those people, I mean, it is what it is. Like if you're a different person, just hey, that was what it was. I mean, every decade of your life, you should hope to grow and be different than the last one. I mean, if you're 40, 50 something, you just be like, that's not me anymore. And then heck, if it is still you, oh, well, hey, it's your time to shine. So when they see you in that video, ask for that check, tell them you didn't sign nothing, and hopefully you can get paid. But they are, like you said, they are going to show like the ratchet part of it. They're going to show the drama. They're going to show the sex. They're going to show all the crazy stuff that sells, and that the reason people are running out there to go, they want people to run to watch it on TV. So I don't think it's going to be a good old wholesome show to talk about how everybody got together and listened to music back in the 80s and 90s. But we'll see. And then my first thought was like, oh, there's not going to be any good video because, just recordings and stuff weren't good back then. But I got to thinking, I was watching, I can't even think of the name of it, but there was like some, like I think a Harlem music festival in like the 70s or something. I watched a documentary on that just here recently, and shoot, that picture was clear. I could see everybody's face as plain as day. So
Well, you got to remember when you produce a documentary, you don't have to have video of everything, right? So they can show still footage. They'll interview people who were, integral to, the Freaknik, maybe like promoters, people that were like popular during the time. So the still photos, I mean, hell, they found Jerry Jones, right? They found Jerry Jones at that racist rally, and he tried to say he was just late for football. What did he say? I'm late for football practice, or I was just curious, or whatever. So they definitely gonna find your grandmammy if they
basketball team.
Nobody's safe. Nobody.
They definitely gonna find your mama. They
What
definitely
do you
gonna find
say,
your
your
mama.
grandbaby?
They gonna find
Right.
your mama if she was shaking it. But you know,
Right.
the thing about it is this: I think it could be a good thing because number one, it started off with the college students who couldn't afford to go home, so they stayed home for spring break, and it gradually grew and grew into something that was big, right? And there's a lot of positive things that can be shown from that. The camaraderie, people to come together, the feel good vibes. You see Erika talk about it, even though she had no business being there. You see her talk about it, and you saw her energy change about how nice it was. I do think that they that it probably started a certain way, and then like with all things, it starts to get away from the original concept, mission, idea, and people start to come in that maybe aren't attached to being in college, being a college student. You just got folks who are coming in with different types of backgrounds, and things start to happen. And I know that happened to a lot of different events. Um, I would say that I think this is a good thing. Like I just mentioned, let me start over. I don't have a problem with them talking about the ugly side. I don't have a problem with them talking about the ugly side because oftentimes we forget or we like to look past how it hasn't always been safe for Black women. It's still not safe for Black women. I believe that it's much safer now than it was at the time. And this coming from a Black man who was in that time frame. How we used to talk to women. I often talk about the rap music and the misogyny and everything that goes with that, and the mind frame that I had back then versus what I have right now, and why I don't really try to play a lot of that music anymore. I think that we can't overlook that was a part of our history, because once we do that, then it'd be easiest for us to backtrack, and our women, our sisters, our daughters, they will start to be unsafe again. I've been a big critic of the Me Too movement. I did not like the Me Too movement because of how I felt it specifically targeted Black men, to try to ruin Black men, put Black men in jail. But I can't say that we as Black men didn't play a part in making a lot of our Black women unsafe. Now, a lot of people are trying to say, well, if you go after Black men, you got to go after so and so. If you go after Bill Cosby, you got to go after what's that white boy's name? Harvey what's the Harvey Firestein or
Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. You got to go after him. Yeah, go after all of them. And Bill Cosby, I think a lot of them was lying on Bill, but yeah, Bill did do some stuff, right? So we ain't got to go back there. But I think the Me Too movement definitely has some benefit, because I do believe the way we treat our sisters, the mindset that we have in terms of like what we value them for, not just their body and shaking their ass, all of that has changed because of the light that has been shown on some of the ugly things we did in the past.
What's good, everybody? To listen to any of our past shows, go to www.manlistenshow.com. And if you want to add right here in the show, you can do the same thing.
I feel you on that. I mean, I think that like anything, there's good and bad to most things. Just like feminism is more about the white woman's movement than Black women's movement. So we had to create womanism. Similarly, I think jumping onto Me Too would be a mistake, but bringing light to that issue is something that we could do in our own way as well to make sure that it's not turning into a witch hunt just against our people or dividing us like feminism was geared to do. So I think it's important to, like you said, have these discussions so that we can decide what's the best way to move forward with dealing with it outside of whatever it is they came up with.
Right.
But did y'all see that meme where it says Freaknik that grew up and got a master's degree and raised 2 kids and he likes to go by the Essence Fest now?
Yeah, but I don't even like that dude though. That dude Michael Harriet. Yeah, I can't stand that dude. That's that same.
Why?
That's that same dude that was going after Dr. Umar Johnson. He was going hard in the paint against Umar, trying to every time Umar did something. And y'all know I'm a fan of Umar. Yeah, he's
So
got.
who? The guy that made the meme or
Yeah,
the guy that shared?
the guy that made the meme. His name is
Oh,
Michael Harriet. He's one of them like very smart brothers. The Root, them type of dudes. Like he writes for those type of websites and stuff like that. So
mm.
like back in the day. Now I will say this: that everybody's not always right. Everybody's not always wrong. And there's times where he has put out tweets, highlighting, certain individuals who have done the Black community wrong. But I always have an issue when you specifically go after a Black person and you really try to tear another Black man down if they haven't proven to be a sellout or something extreme of that nature. Now, I know a lot of people, they have a big problem with Umar. They say, he's funny with the money or whatever. When you go open the school, I don't worry about that. I tell you what works for me, and I'll leave the rest. When it comes to Black economic development, when it comes to Black empowerment, I rock with Umar 100%. And for this dude to go, he was questioning his degree. Are you really a doctor? All this old mess. And then he had to backtrack and say, you know what? I did find out he actually is a doctor. I mean, that's stuff that white folks do to us. So for somebody in our community to do that to another person, I ain't feeling that. So I mean, yeah, it might have been a funny meme, but I didn't read it. Just as soon as I
Yeah,
seen,
it was funny when Erika said it, but
but as soon as I seen Michael Harriet, I totally disengaged.
yeah.
That's just me though. But there's a whole lot of other funny memes. There's a whole
Yeah, I
lot.
saw one that was real funny. I can't remember what it was verbatim, but it said something about like, you don't need to be worried because something about
You done
basically
gained
said,
78 pounds. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I thought, like I said, I didn't go, but I definitely know I can't fit into nothing I wore in 1996 either, though. So I laughed, but then I was a little salty, but then I laughed again at the end.
And
I
listen,
had this.
again, I told you, that ain't true. Because you see Jerry Jones like the damn crypt keeper now, and they show found a picture
Yeah.
of him yelling
Yeah,
at
I think it was
Grandpa
just a
Charles.
joke. Like I think, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, if somebody finds a high school picture of me, they know it's me. But
that
at the
was
same
me.
time, I felt that meme. I felt it.
He's like felt it. She said it touched me a little
Yeah,
bit.
I laughed and I was like, "What the hell?" And I started laughing again.
That's
That
probably
song, That's Just My
most of y'all
Baby
look
Daddy
better
was
at
out in '96. I had this dope Mickey and Minnie Mouse t-shirt made down in Freaknik. That was That's Just My Baby Daddy and that airbrush. Remember airbrush went hard back in '96? Had my red and black J's. You couldn't tell me nothing.
I called you something, jailbait.
Well, I was only with my brothers and my family. I was with no less than 10 Black men. So, at all times.
That does make a difference. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I was the only girl. Nobody else wanted to go. I thought it was fun.
that makes you just. But yeah,
Actually, no, I'm lying. My sister was there. Vanessa was there that one night too.
yeah, but I definitely couldn't. I couldn't make it to Freaknik. There was a bunch of stuff I couldn't make it to. I mean, I remember my freshman year in college. That was the first Million Man March. Weren't able to make it to that either, but we definitely watched it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. They definitely got a lot of publicity behind it. I really hope that they do it justice. I've been reading that Jermaine Dupri and Uncle Luke are some of the producers. I really hope that a Black event started by Black students, for Black people. I hope that Black people get paid off of it, especially since we've been giving them so much free publicity on social media. I mean, it's had my social media chain on feed on a chokehold. Everybody talking about the Freaknik, and I made a post today when I was like, some of y'all so lame at this old age. I seriously doubt that y'all was doing anything fun or incriminating during the Freaknik, and I'll stand on that because a lot of y'all lame as I get out. I appreciate y'all subscribing to the show, but I know y'all wasn't having no fun.
I saw that. I was like,
Yeah, I know y'all won't have no fun at the Freaknik, but anyway, I think we talked about it enough. Make sure y'all subscribe to the show. Oh, also, y'all know we got a website, right? www.manlistenshow.com. You can go there. You can listen to all the past episodes. You can download them. You can do all of that. You can also buy merchandise. Y'all see I'll be wearing the hoodies. We got t-shirts. We got all of that. Go to our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We share clips of the show, a lot of the fun that we have. Yeah, subscribe to the show, hit that bell icon, get notified, and tell 3 people about the Man Listen Show. We'll house next time. Peace.
Peace.
Shout out to Lab.